Hello beautiful creative people, this is Kiala Givehand here for Book in a Day number 10. That's a big number for me. I'm excited about number 10. I think, yeah, I figured I would make it to this spot, but now that I have, yeah, it pretty much feels like this is I'm definitely doing the right thing. I love doing this. I wake up every morning, not just Thursday mornings, thinking about books, thinking about the books I could make, thinking about the topics I could make a book to represent. Every conversation that I have is potentially helping me create and fueling my creativity. So I am just really, I feel like I'm in a super creative space. I'm enjoying every single week of making books and I don't want it to stop. So I'm excited that I have 42 more books to go, which is awesome because in January, the first week of January, I had 52 to go and now I'm 10 down. So I'm super excited about that. This week's book is, oh, let's see, here's the time. We're at 3:37 in the afternoon, Thursday, March 7th, and I know that seems late, right? Because most of the time I start late, I'm up till 4 in the morning. That's not happening this week because I did a lot of pre-work off camera. So I never have an issue with generating ideas. But when I get to revision, I can sometimes struggle creatively there because revision, there's so many different things you could do to revise your writing, and so sometimes I let that overwhelm me and the revision process becomes daunting for me and I want to step back from it. But it's the heart of the process. It's a part of the process. I do know writers who write a poem and they're like, bam, that's done, I'm great, send it off, publish, get it published, right? That happens for people. I'm not one of those writers. That doesn't happen for me. I write, I toil over every word. Not because I'm looking for perfection, but because it has to feel right for me before I send it out into the world. And so this 10th book is, I've been working on an ebook that I plan to, it's more like a workbook. It's more like a workbook for aspiring writers and poets, and it's just giving, you know, strategies and tips and like worksheets and exercises and things you can do to help you, for those people who have trouble generating ideas. That's one part of it, but then there's also the part of it where if you're having trouble in the revision stage, some tips and strategies for that. So the book is called 20 Ways to Talk to Your Poem, and I've been working on it for a few months now, and my goal was to have it out in February, and that didn't happen. And so and mostly because I keep going back and wanting to add, and every time I read it. So fast forward to today, and I am writing the book. The book for Book in a Day is actually going to be a set of cards that would accompany that workbook. And so the set of cards is really a way to activate your creative revision brain, I guess. So my goal in creating this deck of cards, which is a book for today, is to give myself just something I can carry around with me. I can pop it out if I'm on the train, or if I'm when I travel, I can, you know, have it on the plane. I can do it on my couch, at my desk, wherever. But it's just going to be a small deck of cards. I've already written and done the, you know, because the text was written. So what I realized in preparing for the book for today is that the ebook workbook is pretty much almost done. I'm procrastinating in just making it happen. I think, you know, we all have a little bit of fear, and so I think a little bit of that is fear of putting it out in the world. But I'm 40. This is my year to be fearless. It's coming out. So with that said, this deck of cards, or this set of cards, I'm going to do what's called a fan structure, and it's just going to be a set of cards that you can have, and they will be like a fan. They can fan out, and you can pick one, and that would be the revision strategy that you would try on your writing. It is geared towards poets, but there are several of them that can be used by any kind of writer. It doesn't matter what you're writing. So I suspect down the road I will maybe create some for fiction writers, nonfiction writers, general writing in general. We'll see. But for now, because I'm a poet and that's my primary genre that I work in, that is what has been coming up for me. It's really, I have a ton of strategies that I use from being a teacher and teaching writing for, I'm coming up on 20 years pretty soon. So pulling from that history and just from my personal writing life and what works for me. And so this book is almost a supplement to the workbook that I'm creating. So I've spent the morning taking the longer version of what I've written and condensing it so that it can fit onto these cards. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see if it comes out the way I'm thinking about it in my head. So the next few moments here, I'm just going to allow you to see my process of creating. I do want to show you that I've printed them out on this very thin graph paper, which I'm loving. I'm going to put some color on this, and then I'm actually going to, let's see if I can redirect the camera. I actually have a basket here that I keep. It's like a little drawer that sits underneath my desk, and whenever I'm working on a project and I have extra pieces of paper or the scrap from when I cut something off, I just shove it into this drawer. So this drawer has, you can see, tons of papers. It's got paper towels that have color on them that I'm probably going to use in an art journal at some point. So I am just going to kind of rifle through this, because the idea is that on the back of the cards you'll have some sort of creative, just a creative backing, and I need it to be thick because I want them to be light cards, and then they're going to get bound together and they'll stay together as one group that you just use. So I'm going to rifle through my scrap drawer here and see what I have, see what I can salvage and use for this project. Again, upcycling, because I don't want these things to go to waste. This is art that I've made, and I want to make sure that it appears somewhere in the world, and so I'm going to use it for that. I'm also thinking that this is probably a book I'm going to edition at some point, and possibly sell to folks, give some away, I don't know. So yeah, that's where we are for book 10. I'm excited about it. It feels big because it's connected to the book in a day that I'm making is connected to a larger project that I'm working on and has come out of that. So I'm excited about it, and I can't wait to get some feedback from you guys. Folks have been sending me amazing feedback. Thank you. All the emails have really been heartwarming. Folks have been leaving comments on the YouTube page, and that's humbling and wonderful too, and thank you. So I'm excited about this book and seeing what folks think and getting feedback on it. Okay, so I have my pages colored. I have the color on all of them at this point, and quite happy with it. Alright, so next step, let's see, where are we on time, just so you can track me. 4:06, next step, picking the paper that will go on the back of the cards. I'll be back. Okay, so I have a few selected. I'm going to start with these and just see what I come up with. So I just have a bunch of different ones from previous projects. I am going to start cutting them down to the right size, or I'm going to cut these down, and then I'll start adhering them to the pages. Okay. Okay, for 38, and I have all of the little cards cut out. So the next step is to adhere them to the back, or to adhere them to whatever cardstock that I'm going to use. So I am going to get started with that. Alrighty, let's see where we are. It is 5:20. It's getting a little dark outside. But I was able to get some work done, and I had a little bite to eat. Someone wrote to me, sent me an email after, I don't know if it was last week's video or the week before. I think there was a video where I hadn't eaten, and it was like maybe 12:30, and I said I'm gonna take a break and grab a little bite to eat. Someone sent a very wonderful, caring, and beautiful email to me, saying that they had watched the video. They watch every week, and that they're always rooting for me to get done early so I can get some rest, and that they were so disappointed to see that I hadn't eaten until very late in the evening, and just really gave me some wonderful, kind and encouraging words about self-care and eating and nourishment, not just creative nourishment, but sustenance of the body. And so it was just a beautiful email. So I want to say that I have eaten. I always have green smoothies in the morning. It's the very first thing that my husband and I eat in the morning. And that usually sustains me most of the day. But anyway, long story short, thank you. You know who you are, for that beautiful, wonderful email. I appreciate you. I am very grateful. And I just want to say that I did eat today. I've eaten. Okay, back to the book. So what I did is you saw me cut all the little pieces. Now I went through and I just picked a bunch of scraps of paper, and I am going to adhere these to the back. Now, as I was doing this, I started thinking, I want them to be a little thicker, so I think I might layer these papers with cardstock and then adhere these. I gotta think about it for a minute. I'm gonna go off camera and think about it, and then when I come back, I'm just gonna jump right in and start gluing and getting things done. So we're very close to the end, and you'll be happy to know it's not even 6 o'clock yet, and we're close. Okay, so I'm going to take a minute, gather my thoughts, figure out how to make these cards as thick as I'd like them to be, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, we are at 6:34, and all of the pieces are glued on. Now I'm just going to cut them out. So my next step is to go through and cut them out. And I decided to leave, if you watched last week's video, you will remember that I had this handy dandy tool I use for measuring, and I use that to just measure a margin on the left side of the paper so that I can punch a hole, because remember, this is going to be a fan book, so there has to be a hole here, and I did not allow for that on my sheet, so I had to allow for it on the piece that the backing piece. So, alright, so I am going to get to cutting because I'm going to cut these by hand with an X-Acto so that I can get them spot on. And I'll do a couple and then I'll fast forward through this process because I suspect you don't really need to watch me cutting paper. But I will do a couple just so you can see the, know what my process is. Okay, so cutting takes a long time, apparently. So we are at 7:30 p.m. and the stack is done, right? All of them are here. Okay, we are, oh, sorry. It is 10:10 p.m., still the 7th, and the book is one step from being done. So I decided to use the, I couldn't find the screw post that I thought I had, so I'm going with this one, and it is bigger, taller than, it's more space than what I actually need. So I was thinking about ways I could pad this, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm just going to leave it like that for now. If in the event I find a screw post that fits the size, I might change it out, but the fact that I'm doing one book in one day, this is going to have to work for today. So I'm going with that. So the next step is for me to punch the holes. So I'm going to start by making a template. I'm going to punch one and then I'm just going to punch all the rest the same. So that's quite a bit of punching. Once that's done, I'm going to pop the screw post on and the book will be finished. So I'm going to, yeah, that's the next step, is punching holes. So I'm going to do that and see you back here in a sec. Hello beautiful people, Kiala Givehand coming at you. 10:41 at night and I'm done with book 10. Oh, book 10. Okay, so book 10 is done. I'm excited. 20 ways of talking to your poem. It is a fan structure. So the idea is that the book fans out in this way, which I love and adore. So the fronts are prompts and suggested strategies for revising, helpful suggestions and tips. And the backs are just different pieces of artwork that I suspect I see them as visual prompts. You know, pull one and you can write to that visual cue. So the only thing I don't like about the book is that I ended up having to use a really long screw post because it's all I have. And I wanted it to be, tighter so that it would fan out without flopping all over the place. But I suspect that I'll just change this piece out when I have the opportunity. For now it works though. I mean, it's okay with it being loose. That works also. So yay for book 10. It's structured. It starts with the title page, obviously. 20 ways talking to your poem. And then there's an introduction. Then there's a little section about how to use this book. Then there's an explanation of what the revision refreshers are. And so I'll talk about how I have it set up. So each strategy has 3 cards that go with it. So for instance, the first card says first responder. And that the idea is that after you've gone through these cards multiple times and you've worked with them and you've used them for revision, you will sort of be able to pick up those cues and just remember automatically. So first responder is the cue, the name of the strategy. Then the next card, and they're all the strategies are set up this way. The name of the strategy. Then the second card is a 1-sentence try to spark your memory to make you remember what that means. First responder. So it says, this one says speak to the speaker. So again, after you've gone through them enough, you will be able to say, oh, I remember what that strategy is, and you'll be able to just jump right to it. But until you do, there are revision reminders or revision refreshers. And those are simply the cards that have a little more detailed information on them. And they basically describe the strategy. So this one, for instance, for first responder says, if there is a question posed in the poem, answer it with another poem or in a letter. If there isn't a question, simply write back in any way you see fit. The goal is to respond to the text or the speaker or the theme, etc. So it gives you multiple ways that you can use the strategy. So you could, after your poem is written and you're looking at it, you could say, okay, who's speaking in the poem? And if there's a speaker, if there isn't a speaker, try a different strategy. But if there's a speaker in the poem, you identify who the speaker is, and then one strategy is to write to them, write to the speaker of the poem. And so, yeah, you could write, another poem in response to them, or, in conversation with them. So the whole thing is how to talk to your poem, how to have a conversation with your poem. I thank you all so much for joining me every week. Those of you who follow and leave comments and respond, I'm just super grateful and thankful to you. So I look forward to seeing you in all of those places that you're able to find me online. And I will see you back here next week for book 11. We have crossed into the double digits. Yes. Have a great week. Go create something. Thank you.